Welcome to the Fresh and Fired Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Marshall, here to help you function at your best in health, fitness, and life, joined by my co-host, Hailee Piendl. We are back again for part 2. Let's get fired up.
Let's get fired up. It was like just 10 minutes ago that we did part 1. Oh my gosh.
Part 2, muscle gains, baby. Taking you through the phases. We have already, if you haven't listened to it, go back, listen to last week's episode. You can find it on Apple, Spotify, and or YouTube. Subscribe on all 3. Make sure you rate and review the show. It's a great free way to support the content and help more women get strong. Am I right?
Absolutely. Grow them muscles, baby.
Muscle gains. SEO.
Just say muscle gains, muscle gains, women who gain muscle, women who lift weights.
They're like, okay, we're done listening. No, okay, I hope we didn't lose you. We won't say it too often. No, but just a quick review. We did go through phase 1 and 2 training, some of the most common things that come up as we are bringing on and training clients. So that's what you'll hear in next week's episode, some really good detail in there. So don't miss that. Where we're picking up is phase 3. So kick us off, Hailee, with that.
Phase 3 is just, by the way, this is not like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, just based on like science. This is our method. Okay.
Yes. This is our method. And also like the lengths of time can look different for different people, right? Like it's very individualized and specific, but for the purposes of the show, it's easier for us to kind of split it up this way.
Yes, this is our flow state formula method. So phase 3 is where we look at aesthetic goals. So since we have our foundations set, we've gone into the metabolic reset phase, which is typically a lot of people need because we undereat and we don't gain muscle when we undereat. So say that's all done. We've gone through all that, done and dusted. Now we're going to move into...
I love that. Okay, sorry, move into...
We're going to move into stage 3, which is, it's different for everyone. So some of my clients want to continuously grow. So some of them want to go into still like a lean bulk and grow some more muscle. Some of them want to go into a sustainable cut. Some of them want to get pregnant. It's all up to you. Some of them want to just transition into intuitive eating because they love their body and they're like, yeah, I can hang out here for the rest of my life. I'm like, great, awesome. Let's transition you out.
Cool.
But for the sake of this episode, we're going to go into cutting because I think that's the majority of our listeners will probably be interested in.
Yes.
So,
but clarification again, we're not saying you have to do this. You really don't. You don't have to do. Like I'm not in a cut phase right now and I'm loving life, but I've been in cut phases and I know I could get back like if I wanted to. But you have to go, well, what do you want in your season? So, but now let's go. Okay, that's my
exactly. And you bring up a good point too, like a cutting phase is a stress on your body. So if you are in a really high stressed work environment or like you've got a lot of projects going on or there's a lot of stuff going on in your personal life, maybe not a great idea to head into a cut. Maybe it might be better when, life kind of settles down a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
However, going into a cutting phase with training, we actually don't want to really change anything. What is going to happen is you may lose some strength, and that can happen at the latter end of your cutting phase. One thing with women that I really like to stress is we don't want to cut like diet culture teaches us to. We don't want to cut down to 1,500 calories, especially if you're active, because that's when you're going to lose your cycle again. That's when your energy is going to tank. That's when the sleep is going to be terrible. And it's going to be hard to just do life if you're underfed, overtrained. Okay. So what we do is actually do a more gradual cut in terms of calories. I don't really like to cut calories or manipulate them a lot because we're more sensitive to a drop in calories than we are to an increase in movement. So I'd much rather manipulate the step count or your NEAT or your training than drop your calories. So with that said, training in terms of your muscle growth does not change. We still stimulate, 8 to 10 reps. We're still lifting heavy as we can. Your programming doesn't really change in terms of like, we're still doing squats, we're still doing deadlifts, we're still doing hip thrusts, because that's what's going to preserve muscle mass. It is not the goal to put on muscle mass. The only goal of a cut is to preserve it. Okay. And so we, again, want to manipulate more so your step count. So increasing your NEAT, which is your non exercise activity thermogenesis, which is just like fiddling, it's doing the dishes, it's taking out the trash, it's going for your walks. So
Like
having around
basically any activity that's like outside your prescribed exercise regime or training regime, correct? Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So just depending on the person and how many like steps they can get. I like step count, but it can range anywhere from like 8 to 10K. Like you don't have to be super religious with it. I used to
Mhm.
be really religious with it. And that just kind of took away from my life. So just a gauge of a range. I like
Mhm.
ranges a lot in terms of like macros and also like step count. So anywhere from like 8 to 10K steps. And just kind of manipulate your NEAT rather than dropping your calories. But in terms of transitioning out of your metabolic reset phase, so that phase is honestly the most important in
Yeah.
my opinion, because that's where you are going to build your calories and macros up. And the reason we do that is because you don't want to go into a cutting phase on like 1800 calories. That does not give us a lot to work with, and you're going to get stuck real quick. So we actually do want to, do that reverse diet and build your macros up so we have something to work with and your body is actually responsive to a deficit,
What
right?
would be a range of building up to what range? Because I feel like that might be a question in some of our listeners'
It's
heads.
dependent on the person. So
Mhm.
it really ranges, and again has a lot to do with like your already existing muscle mass, your height, your weight, your age, all this other stuff. But a range, it is above 2000 calories.
Mhm.
In terms of averages, just to give you an average of what my clients are currently at, it's anywhere from like 22 to 2600 calories.
Mhm.
So that gives us a lot of room to wiggle with, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Exactly. Were you going to
Yeah,
say something?
no, I was just gonna say, and I wanted to look. No, I do want to bring this up because I was trying to reflect on whether I brought it up. I've probably brought it up on another episode, but ladies, please do not feel bad about eating 22 to 2600 calories. Young male like athletes or young males who are training are like 4,500 to 6,000 calories. Elite athletes that are training super high level, like Michael Phelps, 10,000 calories a day,
Yeah.
right? Like, dude, this is not even, we don't need to be at 6,000 calories
No.
as women, but I'm saying like, if you're going to feel guilty about it, like I do think the male ranges give you a bit of perspective where you're like, okay, we're okay here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But if you're not training at all and you're consistently eating and you're a female and you're consistently eating over 3,000 calories and you don't train, well yeah, then that's going to turn into you storing body fat that you don't want that affects your heart and all these other, lifestyle based diseases. But this is not the case. You just going from 1,500 to 2,000 and you're training, this is a good thing, not a bad thing. Because I think that's a huge mindset block.
Yeah, absolutely. And so many of my clients too, they get scared that they're hungry. Like they start to increase their macros and they're at like 2300 and they're like, I'm still hungry. I shouldn't be hungry. Like, no, no, no. This is great. Like your
You're
body is
training.
you're
Yeah.
using these calories and it's amazing.
And
Like,
you're going to the bathroom regularly,
yeah, like this is great. Like you
which
should
means
not be scared of your hunger.
your gut is actually moving, right? It's not like stagnant and stationary and you're not having bowel movements because you eat so little and you move your body so little that you just got feces hanging out there. That is
It's just
legit.
hanging in your gut. Like, ew.
It's a huge issue though, correct?
It
Like
really is.
it
Yes.
really is, guys. And
Yeah.
we can help you with this. That hands down. If we can help
Shameless
you with
plug.
anything, it's that. And
Yeah.
if you are like really locked up, I kid you not, Haley will get sick of how many times the chiropractor in me comes out. I'm like, get an adjustment, get a flipping adjustment because if your body's not ready to move well on its own, we will move it for you. And we literally like light up your spine. And then all of a sudden your bowel motility is like, oh, we're going to get moving. Oh, my movement patterns are getting better. Now I'm adding in steps. I'm doing my exercises. Like things will start to move. You get that calorie count up. oh, it's amazing. You're going to
Exactly,
feel so much better.
exactly. You're never gonna go back. You're never
Yeah.
gonna go back. And I had a client too, that she got her period back, so we worked her macros up, and she was around like, I don't know, like 26-ish hundred calories. And then she wanted to go into a cutting phase. But at that same time, she got into pickleball. And so she was playing pickleball for like 2 hours, like 4 days a week. And so, one, you have that area where you're increasing your calorie expenditure.
Yeah.
We don't want to touch your calorie input. We actually increased it.
Yeah.
And she lost fat, because again the calorie expenditure was so high that even if she was eating like 2,700 calories, that was still a deficit. Okay, and your body responds so much better when the gap isn't humongous. When it's humongous, it's like, whoa, what's she doing to us? This
It's
is
stressful.
famine area. And like your body doesn't know that like there's food available. We're still in the caveman days. Your brain functions like if there's no food or you're in a really big energy gap, it thinks that you're in a famine.
Yeah.
Mic drop. That's it. So you don't want to take from both of those ends. You want to just take from one, see how your body responds. If it responds well, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's not, now that being said, if it responds well, you have to also give it time. So
Yes.
what you don't want to do is on a daily basis be like, "Oh, I should change everything. This is going bad," because we're obviously going to have ebbs and flows in our energy throughout our hormonal cycle and what else is going on in our lives. But
Mhm.
I will say, okay, a thought that I had when you said that is if you are one of those people who's like, well, I want to try to increase my calories, but I have no appetite. My opinion, I want to hear yours. I think we're on the same page this way is if you are training and you are only eating, 1500 calories and you're saying, I'm not hungry, I don't have an appetite, it tells me that you're most likely your stress level's really high in some way, whether you're internalizing like a lot of stuff and it's just kind of manifesting in your body as a like, I'm carrying my stress, right? Or people will say, like, I adjust people. It's like, I will carry my stress in my shoulders. I'm like, oh yeah, I can feel it. Like you do, right? So when that cortisol is high, when your heart rate variability is low, those factors are going to affect your appetite. So
Yep.
you have to ask yourself, we've been through this so many times, but I think you can't hear it enough because people still don't, I don't know if they don't believe it or they just don't do it, where you're like, you need to sleep and you need to literally take a breath and like calm and enjoy your life. Or like a lot of these goals are not gonna flipping work.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Huzzah. Let's freaking, yeah.
I just
Um,
yelled in your ears. I apologize. I feel passionate.
I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm this is like raw mode now because
I,
you're getting so like worked up about it.
It's
But
the
yes,
part one, part two thing, man. We are really fired up.
I agree 1000%.
Yeah.
Cortisol blunts your appetite. So if it's too high, then you're not going to feel hungry. And then you see a lot of this stuff too when you're super stressed, where it's like it's really high during the day and at night it comes down and then you binge. Or there's a lot of overeating, or you're like, oh my gosh, I made a little boo boo. Lot to do with your cortisol regulation. I was going to say something else, but I
Well,
can't
and
remember what it was.
as you're thinking of that, I do want to say this because we've had so many clients in that category of high cortisol. I want you to hear this because if you're listening to this and you're one of our clients, this is not us calling you out as an individual. This is not directed at any one person, but hear this. There are tons of women struggling with this same issue. So the reason we're getting even more fired up about it is like, this is really common. Like, this is
Mhm.
ridiculously common. So when you're thinking through, I've made this mistake in the past where I feel like I'm the only person struggling with a certain thing. And it's like, no, it's just people aren't talking about, or like you're not having the conversations. They're not, people aren't saying it out loud to you what they're going through. But it is such a real issue where you're struggling with appetite, you're struggling with anxiety, not sleeping, all these things. So, my question for you, Hailee, is what would you say when a client comes to you and is like, maybe they are still having like issues with their appetite. They're running high stress, but they're not able to really recognize it. Like I have had that before too, where it's like, yeah, but I don't feel stressed, or I don't know. Like I've run into this before. I had a patient actually at the clinic who was saying like, yeah, like I feel like I've been told by different practitioners that I'm like carrying stress on my body, but I don't even know why. Like, right, I don't know what to do about it. And that's a tough one because I think there's like development of self-awareness, but there's also I don't know, like there's a lot of internal stuff that can happen for people that can be affecting your body physically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what are some of the recommendations you give in that type of scenario?
I think everything is figure outable. And I think it's got
Mhm.
a lot to do with like resilience and being really honest with yourself. Because a lot of times, people will say, "I don't know what's going on," or "I don't know why I'm so stressed," and things like that. But deep down, they kind of do, where it's like, "Oh, if I removed myself from this really toxic work environment, there would be a huge weight lifted off of my shoulders."
But that requires a big change,
That
right?
requires a big, big change.
Yeah.
So, what I would say for that is like,
Oh,
we can exhaust all other options
yeah.
until doing that. But sometimes, like, the hardest decisions are the best for your health, because I like to use this analogy of like, say you're in a pond, like you've got a fish in a pond and it's just a cesspool of a pond. You take it out, it goes on vacation, goes to Mexico, sits on the beach and reads its book, and it's in this clear pond. And like everything's great because the water's clear and all that stuff, but it has to eventually go back home. And so you can't fix your stress levels by going on vacation. It has to be your regular environment. And so if there's one thing, and this could be like a relationship too that you need to freaking let go. Um that's been me.
Mhm. Or you
Um
need to actually communicate.
yeah.
Maybe you don't even have to let go. You've just been avoiding a conflict for so
Yeah.
long that
Yeah.
you haven't had any tough conversations.
Absolutely, absolutely. That was me when I was doing my coaching on the side, and I was like, I'm not going to tell anyone about this because I'm like, I don't know what to
Mm.
do, and I didn't tell anyone about it, and it got to a point where it grew too much to the point that I was like, "Hi, I'm actually doing this stuff, and now you have to know." And that was the most uncomfortable conversation I've ever had. But great. It's great. It's got me so much freedom. Best decision I ever made, right? Like, but it was
Right.
really hard and I avoided it for so long. But it was that like we keep those secrets and it's
Mm.
always looming over our heads until you get
Totally.
it out in the open. And it's the same thing for like your relationships too. If you have something that's bothering you and it continues to bother you and you're just being like, I'm not going to cause any conflict. I'm just not going to do it, because don't let it ruminate. Just have a good conversation. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be like nah, 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 nah. But it is really good to get it off your chest and not keep secrets. Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
Pause. Yes. What do you need, love? I asked Violet to tell you not to come in. Yes.
But can you find like little change?
Oh my gosh.
Um say hi to Haley. Hi, Haley.
Hi.
Got the hat on. I can't find you Lego right now. We're almost done. I'm gonna yell for a sec.
Okay.
Violet! Colson is in the podcast studio. Okay, we're gonna finish now. Jeez. Maybe we should leave that in real life.
We
Okay.
should.
Um, so you were saying that you were
Secrets and things in your
yeah,
environment causing a lot of stress.
good. Yes, I completely agree. And having that carrying that weight in your mind, I can't reiterate enough how much it gets carried in your body, like
Mhm.
in your muscle tissues and your nervous system. And it makes it so that your threshold for any sort of stresses that come up becomes lower. Like the tipping point happens quicker. Think about it when you've been like holding on to a secret or holding on to something you want to say because you want to have a conversation that is probably going to make things better. But now you have all of a sudden where you get super reactive and snappy, like way quicker. It's usually because there's this underlying thing that's just been brewing. And it could be in any area, but then all of a sudden you just boil over easier. And it's interesting you shared some of that even just with your coaching journey, Hailee, because when I think about this is something I still like, this is pretty raw for me. So, but I'm going to share it with you because we did leave you with a cliffhanger last week. Is when I think about like even Frexy, right? Like the jackets, like this was a side passion project for me. And if you're new to this podcast and you don't know about it, like you can check out frexyfit.com, FREXYFIT, because the website's still up. It's basically just hanging out there. You can still buy product, but I consciously made the decision to stop marketing because of the exact reason that you just said. For if you were in a job that this was stressing you to the max, to the point where it was affecting your health. I absolutely loved the process of making the jackets. I love the process of venturing out to a different industry and learning all of that. But what I realized is the timing. I'm not saying I've like given up on it. Like you can still buy a jacket off my website. My husband and I, we both decided like we're stopping actively marketing because I was so carrying all the stress in my body because I had added it in addition to, I'm still working at our chiropractic clinic and we own it. We've still got staff there that we need to take care of. We have 4 children. I volunteer in our community. We do the podcast. I do coaching as well. Like, so I'm not sitting here. If you're telling yourself, well, I'm not doing enough, right? I added this as an extra because I have a creative brain. The reason it feels so fresh is because I still have people who ask me like, oh, are you still doing the jackets? I'm like, well, kind of. But I held in my body for a while, like, have I given up too early? Well, no, because it's not as though that was the only thing I was doing. I'm doing like 6 other things, right?
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself sometimes, is this the thing that's pushing my health over the edge? And am I really like carrying it in my body? And now I'm getting sick frequently, when it's like, if I just make this one tweak and go, hey, you know what? Maybe I thought originally that this was a 2025 goal, but I'm just going to let it simmer. Maybe this is actually a 2028 goal. Like there's a lot to be said for the timing in our lives too. And when you're looking at these different phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you already touched on it with the cut, whether it's our career, our family life, or our training, we have to go, is this the right timing?
Yeah. And you can pause.
You can
always
pause.
Pause it. Yeah.
You can always pause it. And I think the biggest thing that requires work, or I know in my case, was the humility to be able to allow yourself to pause from something.
Mm-hmm.
Because more than anything, I know I can find myself where I want to defend my position or even make excuses where I'm like, well, because at the time it was legitly like postal strike here in Canada. My shipping was a mess. My manufacturer shut down. What else? Like literally there was like 5 hits in a row that I was like freaking out. And so, and my margins were really like not a lot. The point of that all to say is go, okay, you need to pick your battles. Is this a time where you need to prioritize your health and the health of your family? Is this a time where you need to push in career? Is this a time you need to just get your habits in order, right? And I feel like it's okay to make those decisions. And when we enter phase 3 with our training, we have to go, is this a good time to do a cut? That is probably the number one question, because the physiology of doing that, it's going to go way better if you're not in a state of super high cortisol, where you're just adding it as an extra thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I agree.
Awesome.
Sweet.
So I think we need to wrap up for today, right? Because you have to go.
I got to get out of here.
Skedaddle. Okay, so check us out on YouTube. Like we said, make sure you subscribe, share this episode with a friend. Thanks for joining us for part 1 and 2. You're ready for some big muscle gains. And in the meantime, be free, feel fresh, and live on fire.